Hi everyone, welcome back to another anatomy episode. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the special senses of the ear. So please like and subscribe for more content. And now we're going to get into the first model/diagram. So over here, you can see the three different ducts that are within your ear. The first duct is going to be your vestibular duct over here, and within it, it is going to be filled up with perilymph. So perilymph is just a type of fluid that is going to be over here in this duct. Then separating the vestibular from the cochlear duct, you have this thin white line. This is known as your vestibular membrane. So now within the cochlear duct, you have endolymph. I often think of the mnemonic of PEEP, P-E-P, to remember that there is perilymph within the vestibular and tympanic duct, and then endolymph within the cochlear duct. Within the cochlear duct, you also have your spiral organ. So you can see this boxed area in green. This is known as your spiral organ. Within the spiral organ, you have your tectorial membrane, which is kind of this thin little projection over here. It looks a little bit like a potato chip or a duck with like the head, and here is the little snout or the beak of the duck. You also have your hair cells over here. You can see that they are very long column-like types of shapes. And at the bottom, you have your basilar membrane, which separates your cochlear and your tympanic duct. So again, in your tympanic duct, you have perilymph. And then over here to the side that is connecting to your hair cells, you have your cochlear nerve ganglion, which is this thicker circular bulb over here. So now that we've looked inside of the three different ducts within the ear, we're going to look at just the main structure of the ear itself. So starting off, we have the semicircular ducts over here in purple. This is kind of just the gray area that is over here. And then on the outside, you're going to have your semicircular canal. So the semicircular ducts is going to have a membranous labyrinth, meaning that it is filled with endolymph, while the semicircular canal is going to be bony labyrinth and it's filled with perilymph. Now going into the spiral organ, aka the cochlea, you are going to start off with having a vestibular duct. So if you remember the vestibular duct over here up at the top, that is what this is showing in this spirally portion over here. So this blue color on the most inside, that is your vestibular duct. Again, it is with bony labyrinth. And then in yellow, you have your cochlear duct in the center. That is the membranous labyrinth. And then in green, you have your tympanic duct, which is bony labyrinth again. Think of it as kind of like a shell that is covering the important fluid that is in the center in the cochlear duct. So it follows the same vestibular, cochlear, tympanic routine over here and right over there. Next, you have your vestibule. The vestibule is going to be this region. So it's not a specific structure, more so just a region. Within the vestibule, you are going to have your utricle, which is this light blue color over here. Right next to the utricle is going to be your saccule. So the saccule is going to be closer to the shell side, while the utricle is farther away from it. You also have your stapes. The stapes is going to be the connection between the middle and the inner ear, and it is this green structure right over here. Then you have your round window in teal over here, that little oval shape, that is your round window. And finally, you have your ampullae. The ampullae is just going to be the little bulbs that is at the bottom of all of these semicircular canals. So where they are attaching back to the body, that is an ampule. Finally, you have your vestibular nerve that is coming out from your ear structure, and this is just going to bring all of the different sounds from your middle and inner ear to the brain so that it can process those sounds and turn them into thoughts and stable connections. All right, finally, the organ of Corti is in the cochlear duct. The organ of Corti is also known as the spiral organ. So spiral organ over here, also organ of Corti within the cochlear duct, as we can see. All right, now over here you can see a picture of the ear histology or the ear tissue. So up here you have your vestibular duct, then you have your vestibular membrane is this very thin line. You have your cochlear duct. This over here is your spiral organ or the organ of Corti, whichever one you want to call it. You will have hair cells over here. The hair cells are kind of hard to see unless you are in a higher magnitude, which this image is not. But you can also see your tectoral membrane over here, which is, again, this tiny little projection over here. It's even a little bit curved and hooked. Remember that the tectoral membrane was this projection over here on the model, and in histology, in real life, it looks like this. So they are quite similar. Finally, you have your basilar membrane that separates the cochlear and tympanic duct. You have your spiral root ganglion over here to the side, and then your cochlear nerve is just going to be this. If you were to zoom in more, you would see that this is all nervous tissue. Most anatomy classes don't ask that you know exactly where the cochlear nerve is just because it can be kind of hard to spot. Just know that it is usually right next to the spiral ganglion. So if you are asked it, then it's going to be the big blotch of nervous tissue right next to the spiral ganglion. Alright, so that is everything for this video. I hope that you guys got some clarification on any questions that you may have. If you have more questions or video recommendations, then please leave them in the comments. If you would also like some anatomy tutoring, I also offer that, so please comment and I will give you guys some resources and personalized help. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!